Alright everybody, I hope y'all can hear me. I hope this comes out okay. I've never done one of these before, but I wanted to show you how I do layering. I did the Rapunzel that everybody was liking on Facebook. I wanted to put something together that was easier for people to follow because I literally had to watch probably 20 YouTube videos, some about compound paths, and then it would open up another question, and I'd have to YouTube that, and then about layering. It was just on and on. So I figured I'd try to put all the relevant stuff together, and hopefully maybe we can get this in a relatively quick video. So I'm just going to jump on in. I wanted to show you how I find images. I just find images off the internet. First, I'm going to show you images that you need to try to find. If you're looking for a beach ball, for instance, you need to try to find ones that have this black outline. A coloring page is a good thing to Google because they usually have these black outlines. These are like coloring pages. These are, this was just free clip art over here, these little guys over here. But if you come across an image like this, it's not going to trace well. So you really need to try to find one that has these bold black lines in it. So if I go over here to the trace function up here and I trace it, which is an entirely different video in itself, I'm going to try to trace this ball. And as you can see, the high pass filter is always defaulted. It's barely picking up this outline, and the only reason it's picking it up is because there's a white background. If I wanted to, for instance, fill in these lines, there's nothing, it's not dark enough for the computer to see it. So if I try to fill it in, it's just going to kind of fill it in. Even if you tried the low pass filter, it's not really doing anything. If you take all of them off and try threshold, it's just going to fill it in. And all you're going to get is an outline. So long story short, try to find stuff with these bold black lines. So we're going to get rid of that, and I'm going to show you how easy it is with the lines. You just select your trace area, open it up like that, and usually on these coloring book pages, the default of this high pass filter is going to actually give you a pretty good trace. Now, I do find that you kind of have to play with it a little bit. You don't want those yellow lines to start filling in your colored areas. You want it to be right, just covering the black. See, that's not enough. So I'm going to go back up in the high pass filter just a little bit, somewhere around there. And then to smooth the lines out, you want to bring your scale down. And that's going to kind of smooth the edges out just a little bit more. Click trace, move it out of the way, and there's your ball. Now, this is where the layering comes in. You see you have two lines all the way around the outside. That's because there's two lines. If you're thinking of it like the computer, there's a black line here. That's only one black line. But if it's a cut line, it's got to cut the inside and the outside of the black line. So you need that black background. So what we're going to do is move this over here so we can use it for color reference. You're going to click on this ball. It's all one piece. It's all grouped together. You can move it around. If you right click on it and click release compound path, that's going to give you every single cut line is going to be a separate entity in its own. You're going to have the purple section. You're going to have the black lines. Everything is going to be its own little cut line. So if you click off of it and click back on it, you're going to be able to select individual areas. Now, the easiest way that I've found excuse me, to layer with this is by clicking on the outside line first. Now it gets really, really fickle with this. I mean, it really helps if you zoom in, because sometimes you're clicking on the wedge part instead of the outside part. But when you get that outside part highlighted, pull it, oops. Anytime you do that, just go up here to the back arrow, and it will very easily click on the wrong thing. So just, oh, really? Okay, once you get your outline, go ahead and pull it away. And the next step is to fill it in with color. If you will fill these in with color as you go, it will be so much easier for you. So just click on the green wedge, turn it green. Click on the next one, turn it pink. Click on this one, turn it orange. Of course, you can use whatever colors you want. I'm just going by the original. This one is blue, and this one is light blue-ish. Okay, and don't forget about your middle piece. That is not, this is white, so you have to click on the middle piece too and make it white. But you have to make sure you click the right thing. Okay, now what you want to do, group them all back together. Down here is your group selected shapes, or right click and group. I think you can get to it up here somewhere. Yeah, it's like all over the place. Just right clicking is easier for me. I group them back together so I can move them around. Put them back over. Just kind of eyeball it. Put it back over where you want it. Highlight both pieces because you're doing the top part and the bottom layer with the black, and group it together, which I actually just grouped both of those together. If you ungroup it, now you have, well, yeah, you see what I mean. So just group those two and then put it where you want it. This is your original. You can get rid of this. This is just an image. The computer is never going to be able to cut this out. You can't separate it. It's just an image, so you can delete it. Now that we've got our reference, this is what you need to work with. This is going to be what you cut. So now is where you size it, because it's all grouped together. You're going to put it all back together. Size it however big you want it. Right click on it again and ungroup it. Move your, oops, you got to click off of it and select which one you want. All right, so now it's really, really important that you do not change any sizes again. When I did that little Rapunzel, somehow her little white cuffs on her dress got enlarged, and so when they got cut out and I tried to layer them, they were just too big for her dress, or I shrunk the dress and it didn't shrink the cuffs or whatever it was. Once you have sized it and ungrouped it again to start cutting, you cannot change the size again. So now you can click here, select your colored pieces, right click and ungroup that again, and this is where you put them on your mat. Just get a little square of pink, a little square of green, a little square of white, a little square of yellow. Just put them wherever you want on your mat. Now I am doing this by eyeballing it. I know that other people do registration marks and it's much more accurate. I personally find registration marks to be very stressful. So that's totally up to you. If you want to do registration marks and make sure everything lines up perfectly, then you need to watch YouTube videos on using registration marks. But I think it's okay to eyeball it. So once you get all your stuff on your mat where you want it, you can either line it up however you want it, or count your squares and just put your pink here that's 3 pieces wide by 3 pieces long. Whatever you want to do. So anyways, your mat's going to be full of all those different colors, and you cut them all out, and then you just place them back on the ball. This one is a little difficult because of the angles of everything. If you really wanted to get technical with it, I suppose you could keep them grouped together and try to put your vinyl on the mat like that, but I don't know that that would really work well. Again, I am not a professional. This is just literally how I figured out how to do it. I find it easier to eyeball stuff. So I'm going to show you a couple other instances. Here's a little Hello Kitty. I found almost the same version of her in color just for reference. So this was a coloring page. I'm going to trace it, select the trace area, highlight it, and because it's got those good thick black lines, it's almost completely filled in, which you can see here that it's not totally filled in. So you want to increase your high pass filter just a little bit. Go ahead and bring that scale down to smooth it out and hit trace. Move her out of the way, and you can delete her now. I just click on her and delete. Now, we are going to right-click and release compound path again because I want all the little pieces to be individual. I do not want this box around her, which was the picture line, so I'm just going to click on that and hit delete. Anytime you make a mistake, just hit this back arrow up here or edit, undo, whatever. So anyways, if I highlight the whole thing, you can see that the compound path is released because it's all these little individual pieces. So you don't want to just start moving stuff around. You kind of need to do this in some semblance of order. So I'm going to click on the outline because I know it's black. I'm going to pull it away. I'm going to color it in black. And let's see if there's anything else on her that's black. We need to do that now. We need to deal with it now. Her little eyes and the little outline on her nose is going to be black. Well, I don't want to cut a separate black piece of vinyl out to stick eyes on a white face. I want this black background to show through 2 cut holes. To do that, you have to do what's called making a compound path, which according to one of the YouTube videos I saw, I think it was Ken's Creations. He's very good, by the way. He said if you'll think about compound paths, like making a compound path is like the donut hole effect. If you want to cut a hole in something, you have to make it a compound path. So I want to cut a hole in this white face, here, here, and around the nose. So I'm going to click on her eye. I'm going to hold my shift key down, click on her other eye, and click on the outer outline of her nose. And then I have to tell the computer what I want it to cut the holes in. So I'm going to hold the shift key down and click on her face. Now I'm going to right click and make it a compound path because what I want the computer to do is cut those holes in that face. Now, before I move it, I'm going to do like I did with the beach ball. I'm going to highlight everything on her that is white so I can group it together. I think I got it all. I'm going to group it together, change it to white, and move it over. See how the holes cut out? That is the part that I was having so much trouble with Rapunzel's eyes. I literally spent 4 hours trying to figure out what a compound path was. And if you make a compound path, it is cutting a hole in something. So now that I've got all the white parts on, we're going to make this bow. I'm going to just highlight over it with the box. So I'm just using my mouse to highlight over it. Holding the shift key down, and I'm going to make it the same color as her undershirt with all these shifts. Let's make it dark pink, and don't forget to group. And I'm going to move it over here. Just kind of sit it where you want it. This one is going to be a lighter pink. And there's nothing to group together because it's one piece. I'm going to move it over here. And this is her little orange nose. Let's use that one. So, you see how it's coming across underneath the white? That's because it needs to be brought to the front. Anytime you lose a facial feature or anything, like, for instance, you didn't make a compound path right or something just disappears, like the nose just disappears. Odds are, if you move the face over, it's still back there. It just needs to be right-clicked on and bring to front. So it's not behind the face anymore, it's in front of the face. That's how you can lose your little facial features sometimes. So, now that I have her all back together, I group it together and get rid of this guy because we don't need it anymore. We've made it how we want it. And now we can resize it however big we want. And then right click on her, ungroup it again, and oops, you got to click off and click back on what you want. I'm going to move the white pieces up here, black over here, the hot pink here. And you can spread your vinyl out all over your mat. Your machine's going to find it. Long as you count these right, like I was counting them individually, but if you'll go to your, I think it's design page. Yeah, design page settings. And go on this reveal slider here. It shows you the numbers. So you know that you need a black square that's 1 by 4.5, and then not 1 by 4.5. Sorry, 4.5 by 5.5. Or you can just look at the little measurements here, 5.5 by 4.5. This one's gonna be, I just noticed that. I learned something new. 3, yeah, just use these measurements. That's much easier. Now, if you really want to, if you want to save space on your mat, I don't really know why you'd want to, you could ungroup them and kind of, I like to keep these little pieces together if I can, but you can move, you don't have to do it like this, because once you cut it out of your vinyl and weed it, you know, you can easily, you could easily just do it one little piece at a time if that's what you want to do. You could layer it just like that. That's up to you. I prefer to keep it together if I can. But you can move it. You don't have to keep them separated like that. I just found it easier that way. That way when I cut or weed it, I can just lay it right there on top of her. So this is where I'd put the white, hot pink, light pink, a little orange square, and a black square. So that's basically how I do all that. Now, I'm going to try to show you, I'm just going to show you one more just to kind of see, make sure everybody's got it. This little butterfly I did earlier was pretty easy. They do get more complicated, and the more you play with it, the easier it will get. Just tracing it. I actually got a really good trace because it's got that good bold black line. I don't want to bring that scale down too much because you don't want that black line to show up, so I'm just going to try to keep it solid. You don't want to see any of the black lines, but you want it as smooth as possible. So trace that, move this out of the way, keep it for color reference. Now it's one piece, so you can't get rid of anything until you release your compound path. That is what separates it. And that is one of the things that was so hard for me to find online. So just click on stuff you don't want, and you can just drag your mouse over this kind of stuff, but be careful that you don't accidentally drag it over that. Watch what your mouse is highlighting. You know, make sure it's not, you know, make sure you're not clicking on that when you really want that, okay? And I'm telling you, the smaller the pieces, the harder it's going to be. You may have to click on something 40 times to get it to actually highlight the right thing. It is a pain in the butt. So I'm going to move the background layer off. I'm going to color it in. It just helps you to see it. Now, I will tell you this. If you click on this color and it doesn't fill in, it's because something is broken. There's a broken line. If there's any gaps in any of these red lines, it will not fill in with color, so you need to zoom down on it and find what the gap is and try to close it off with one of these pencil tools or something, or your lines. Now, here we go with the compound path. These little circles are black. So again, I don't want to have to cut out a black circle that's separate from this, and then cut out a yellow circle and layer that on top of that purple wing. I want the black on the bottom to shine through this hole, because it's going to get thick and bulky if you don't, you know, if you put too many layers on top of it. So what I'm doing here is I want this black ring to be a donut hole, which is the Make Compound Path feature. So I'm going to click on the outside ring, hold the shift key down, click on the outside ring, and then I have to tell the computer what I want it to cut it out of. So I'm going to click the wing, because I want this black line to be cut out of this wing. Right click, make it a compound path. Now, trust me, it did it. You can't do it on two sides because you don't want to confuse it. You don't want to try to do too much at one time. Don't try to do all 4 of them and 2 wings. That's too confusing. Try to do it one piece at a time. If you have one eyebrow or one eyelid or something that's black and you have to make it a compound path from the face, just do it one piece at a time. You can do a couple, but don't get too crazy with it. So here's another one that needs to be a compound path. I'm going to hold the shift key, click that. Actually, I think I got the inner one. I did. So I'm going to uncheck that one and then check the wing, make it a path, because I don't want it to, I don't want to have to cut out a separate black circle. Because if you don't make it a compound path, what's going to happen is that purple wing is going to cut out, as a solid piece. You have to tell it you want it to cut this out, and that's what making a compound path does. So now that I've done that, I'm going to select the whole wing, both of them, and I'm going to group them, and I'm going to move them over here, and I'm going to color them in purple like the butterfly. So you can see that now it is a hole that is making a compound path. That's the donut hole effect. So I'm going to put the wings over where they go. Here we go again, black eyes. I don't want to cut black circles out. I want the black holes to be in the pink so the black shines through. So I'm going to click on the eyes, hold the shift key, click on the eyes, and click on what I want the cutouts to be in, make a compound path. So if I click this guy and these little guys, I'm going to group them, turn them pink, and move them where they go. And now all four of these dudes are yellow, group, move. And since we've basically kept everything grouped together, it fits perfectly. Highlight it all, group it together so you can move it around and resize it. Of course, you can get rid of this guy. Zoom down a hair, make it whatever size you want. You click on it, you can see exactly what your measurements are. You can also go over here to your design page settings. Nope, wrong one. Scale window. This scale window looks like it's sizing. That's your width and height. If you want this little dude to be 5 by 5, just set it in there, width and height. If you have this lock aspect on, it won't let you because it doesn't want it to skew too long or too wide. If you uncheck the lock aspect, you can put to exactly whatever you want. So now he's 5 by 5. He's one solid piece. He's grouped together. Right click, ungroup. And now I can move my little pieces anywhere on the mat I want. Set up my colored vinyl, and there you go. Easy peasy. So anyways, I hope this helps. I hope this recorded because it was a long time. But y'all just message me if you have any other questions. I'm sure there's better ways to do some of this stuff. I'm sure there's more professional ways. But this is the way I figured it out, and I really hope it helps somebody. But thanks for watching. Y'all have a good day.